Welcome back to New Day Northwest. Let me ask you a question. When you think of the term American grit, what comes to mind? Well, a new book about World War II era Japanese Americans may change the way you think about that phrase. Written by author John Suzuki, American Grit takes a look at the lives of thousands of American men, women, and children that were imprisoned by the U.S. government because of their Japanese ancestry. John joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Amity.
So let's talk about it. Why made you want to write this book right now?
Well, you know, the reason why I wrote the book is because I wanted to bring people together by teaching them about this part of our history that I hope never ever happens again.
Yes.
And it's just a wonderful, wonderful story, and it's a terrible experience that happened. But the stories are amazing.
It's a horrible mark on our country's history. 50,000 American children were incarcerated during that time. Where were they taken? Children!
Yeah. Well, what happened was that after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, there was this huge amount of fear on the West Coast of Japanese spies. And a lot of people thought that if you look like the Japanese enemy, you are the Japanese enemy.
Wow.
So President Roosevelt issued infamously Executive Order 9066. And basically it authorized the American Army to evict and evacuate and move off the West Coast 122,000 people of Japanese ancestry into 10 concentration camps across the United States. And these concentration camps were in the worst areas, the deserts and prisons, deserts and swamps of America. And 50,000 of those people were children and babies. Yeah, and people don't think about that or realize it.
Especially where they were. You and I both started our lives. It wasn't Disneyland. We both started our lives in California. So those camps, literally in the Mojave Desert, in places or the horrible areas. Terrible
area. They wouldn't build maximum security prisons for the most hardened criminals in places where they built these camps.
Let's talk about in the book you mentioned that Japanese American men who volunteered from these camps. They were in the camps. They volunteered to go fight for the U.S. Army. Why?
It was the same. It was a fight for the same army that put them and their families in those camps to begin with, to prove their loyalty to the United States, to prove that they were as deserving to be American citizens as anybody else. And it's an amazing story. These men volunteered out of the camps and they became part of a Japanese-American segregated army unit called the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. That 442nd Combat Team went on to become the most decorated war unit in the history of the United States for its size and duration.
Wow.
And the man that I write about, Shiro Kashino, he volunteered out of a camp, participated in the 442nd, and he went on to become one of the most decorated war heroes in all of World War II.
Oh my goodness.
And these stories are just unbelievable, and stories that I hadn't heard of before until I came across all these experiences and was called upon to write this book.
You know, we hear the stories about what happened. We don't really hear a lot about what happened to the concentration camp inmates after World War II ended, but you do address that in this book.
Yeah, it wasn't good. So when they closed all the camps, they in effect evicted everybody out of the camps again. And they gave everybody $25 and a one-way bus ticket somewhere, anywhere to restart their lives. A lot of people lost everything. They lost their farms, they lost their businesses, they lost their homes, and they had to start all over again. Daniel Inouye, senator, the late senator, he walked into a barber shop wearing his American uniform, missing an arm, and the barber told him, "You need to read that sign." And the sign said, "We don't cut Jap hair." When these folks came back, you know, the problem was that during the war they were viewed as the enemy. But after the war, it was kind of worse because they were viewed as the enemy that lost. And it was, for decades, it was hard for them to get jobs, to find housing, but they all stayed true to their American dreams of a better life for their families. And through it all, I mean, it's an amazing story of perseverance, and they won.
And that is the American grit that they showed.
That's part of it, absolutely.
What do you hope people take away from this book?
You know, I hope people, we have got to do everything we can to keep this experience from happening again.
Yeah.
And you know, the fact of the matter is we've got to stop being so divisive and putting people in buckets. We got the white bucket and black bucket and the gay bucket and the straight bucket and the rich bucket and you know, it's the categorization of people combined with widespread fear that brought us the concentration camps in America to begin with. And so from my perspective, you know, we need to figure out how to live with a whole lot less fear.
Yeah. And
bring a little more love into the world. And I'm trying to do that by teaching people about this experience through my book.
I have to say, I'm not often speechless, but what you just said spoke to me so powerfully. A beautiful book, a cautionary tale of where we could go if we don't live without fear. Thank you so much for your time here.
Thank you for having me.
This is a beautiful book. Go check this out.